All right, everybody, peace. Welcome to the Stby Basketball Show. Wherever or however you're listening, we're so grateful to have you here with us. As you guys know, I'm your host, Sean Cottle, and we have got a jam-packed show for you today, guys, filled with news revolving around the world of basketball. Listen, we didn't get to do a show on Wednesday, so we've got a lot of stuff to catch up on. We're going to recap and break down the 70-point performance by Joel Embiid, what that means for the state of the NBA, and what that means for Joel Embiid's MVP chances this year. We're also going to break down the news revolving around Milwaukee, with them firing Adrian Griffin 40 games into the season and bringing on Doc Rivers to replace him as head coach. What this represents for Milwaukee as an organization, what this means for Giannis' future with the organization, and what this means for Doc Rivers' legacy. Based on whether they win or not win later on this year. And we're also going to preview the top 10 matchup in women's college basketball between two SEC powerhouses in LSU and in South Carolina. Perhaps the biggest game of the season so far, women's college basketball. We're going to be looking at all of that, guys, and then some more on this episode. So we're so excited to have you here with us. But before we get started, if you haven't already, be sure to hit that like button, hit the subscribe button as well, so you guys can stay up to date on all related content that we post daily. And if you'd like to support our network and our company, you can do so by following the link in the ticker below. It's streamelements.com/sorrytobothertheshow/tip. Once again, it's streamelements.com/sorrytobothertheshow/tip. None of this is possible without you guys as fans, so we're so grateful and honored for all the love and support that you show us, because it's a blessing and a privilege to have this platform with you guys and share with you guys my thoughts and my insight on the wonderful world of basketball. So, with that being said, guys, let's go ahead and get right into it. Like I said, breaking news coming out of Milwaukee. The Bucks fired Adrian Griffin 40 games into the season. Even though Milwaukee was third in the Eastern Conference, number one in offensive efficiency, and doing all this without their third option, Chris Middleton. Now Milwaukee was in the bottom three in the league in defensive efficiency and defensive net rating. For those who have been keeping up with the Milwaukee Bucks throughout the season, that has been an issuance for them the entire, over the course of the entire season. But that shouldn't come as a surprise to anybody, because what was the thing we talked about before the season even started? That Milwaukee was going to struggle defensively because of them trading away their best defensive player in Jrue Holiday. And us understanding that Damian Lillard is not the defensive player that Jrue Holiday is. So you're going to lose a little bit of efficiency on the defensive end for Milwaukee. And because you lose Jrue Holiday, now that puts more pressure on your low post players defensively, because now they have to step up more on help side, on drives, and that also leads to them having to make longer closeouts as well. Has the possibility of putting your bigs in foul trouble because your perimeter defense now isn't as good. So this was stuff we talked about before the season even started. So the fact that Milwaukee is in the bottom three in defensive efficiency is nothing new for us. It's nothing new to someone that understands the game of basketball. And what this tells me, even though Milwaukee was having success, despite their defensive woes, and the fact that they fired their head coach, this tells me that the firing has nothing to do with basketball. It has everything to do with the personal matter. And something I noticed over the course of the season was the lack of respect that Giannis had for Adrian Griffin. Now, I don't know where that lack of respect comes from, but Giannis was acting in a way and doing things to Adrian Griffin, or treating Adrian Griffin in a way that he never treated Mike Budenholzer when Bud was the head coach in Milwaukee. Things like, walking off while coach is talking to him, and the eye rolls and not paying attention in timeouts and taking a clipboard and writing up plays. These were things that Giannis never did under Budenholzer, but he did under Adrian Griffin. Now, why he felt like he was able to do these things to coach Adrian Griffin? I don't know. I don't know their personal dynamic. But as someone who understands the game of basketball and how human relations work, I saw that right away and I thought to myself, that's off. If this continues, it's not going to last. And lo and behold, here we are. Now, sources have told me that the firing of Adrian Griffin was done without the approval of Giannis. But I cannot imagine a world where the Milwaukee Bucks don't run any sort of hiring or firing by Giannis. Because what sense does it make? Because we know that Milwaukee got the approval to hire Adrian Griffin from Giannis and from Dame before they made that hiring. But you don't get the approval from your best player when you fire the coach. That doesn't make any sense. That's backwards. And it's just nonsensical. And no one believes that. Or at least no one should believe that. And for them to fire Adrian Griffin so quickly, but then right in turn hire Doc Rivers, tells me that they were planning to do this for at least the past month and a half. They knew 15 games into the season that Adrian Griffin was not going to last the entire season. They knew that. Milwaukee did. They were just looking for the right time. They were looking for the right moment. And honestly, they were probably doing contract talks, negotiations with Doc Rivers under the table in that meantime. Because I can't recall a time where a first-year head coach was third in the conference, first in offensive efficiency, though, like I said, yes, in the bottom three defensive efficiency, having this success without his third best player, and then gets fired less than halfway through the season. I've never seen this before. But this tells me that Giannis does not like Adrian Griffin's coaching style or him as a coach, whatever you call it, whatever you want to say it is. But Giannis did not like how the team was being ran. But that's not the issue. Coaching was not the issue. It was just the type of players you have on the roster. You don't have defensive players anymore. Damian Lillard is not a defensive player. And the issues that we talked about Milwaukee was going to have are the issues that they have right now. Listen, they're not going to come out of the Eastern Conference. They're not better than Boston. And we're going to get into it later, but with the way that Philly's been playing, you could argue that Philly has a chance of being better than Milwaukee by the time the end of the season comes around. And this just, I don't want to get on too much of a three-dimensional level, but I think I do find it interesting that Giannis was able or willing to treat Adrian Griffin like this as a coach who was another so-called black man, but never had this type of vitriol and disrespect and disdain for Mike Budenholzer, who was a white coach. And I'm not making it a race thing, but it's just something that I've noticed and I pointed out. And this we know that Giannis is not a so-called black man in the captivity, but more so, he's Nigerian. So there's that level that comes into play as well. And I'm not really gonna get too much on Doc Rivers because we already know we talked about Doc Rivers ad nauseum. Listen, Doc is probably the most overrated coach in NBA history. Yes, he won that NBA championship with Boston in 2008. However, countless numerous times he's fallen up woefully short. And with the level of talent he's had over the course of his career, for him to only have one championship and multiple blown 3-1 leads, 3-2 leads, I'm not sold on Doc Rivers as a coach. I think he's an overrated coach, and I think this will be the spot where if he doesn't win, people are finally gonna start to admit that in public. But people are saying this behind closed doors. But now people are gonna say it in public. But this is something I've been saying for the past 3 years, 4 years, 5 years. My apologies, 5 years. I've been saying this, but sometimes you're three and four steps ahead of everyone else, and sometimes you have to bite the bullets because you're in front of everyone else. But that's neither here nor there. But guys, let me know what you guys think about this situation right here. Leave your thoughts in the comment section. Share your thoughts in the chat room. Looking forward to hearing all about it. In our next segment, guys, like I said, we're going to break down the performance, the historic performance put on by Joel Embiid, his 70-point performance. So be sure to stick around for that, guys. You're not going to miss it. We'll be right back. All right, everybody, welcome back. In case you missed the first segment of our show, we just discussed the recent news coming out of Milwaukee involving them firing Adrian Griffin and hiring Doc Rivers to replace him as head coach. What that means for the organization, what that means for Doc Rivers, what that means for Adrian Griffin, what that means for Giannis as well moving forward. And in this segment, guys, we're going to be discussing the historic performance put on by Joel Embiid, his historic 70-point performance. So we'll get right into it. Listen, Phil, you are unaware, Joel Embiid on Tuesday scored a career high 70 points against the San Antonio Spurs in a victory for the Philadelphia 76ers. Joel Embiid in this performance set a franchise record for points in a Philadelphia uniform. But excuse my naivete and I guess my youth, but I could have sworn that Wilt Chamberlain scored 100 points in a Philadelphia uniform. But, I guess I was wrong about that. But when I saw that headline, I thought to myself, I'm pretty sure Wilt scored 100 points in a Philly uniform. But I don't know. I guess I was wrong about that. But anyways, Joel Embiid scored 70 points. On an efficient scoring, I think he shot 23 of 37 from the field, 21 of 23 from the free throw line. Most important to me, that's the most important and the most impressive stat, especially for him as a big. His ability to shoot free throws in the way in which he does is phenomenal. Him and Jokic, which just tells me that there is no excuse for bigs to be poor free throw shooters. Just because you're big does not mean you have to be a poor free throw shooter. That's what that tells me. So for Joel Embiid to shoot 21 and 23 from the free throw line, for me, that's the most impressive stat. But also another impressive stat from his stat line is that he only made one 3-pointer. He scored 70 points while only hitting one 3-pointer. I mean, that's impressive. And if you watch the film, Joel Embiid did an amazing job of spreading the floor and expanding his range, past the elbow line, past the elbow extended, getting to his mid-range. And he just was phenomenal in the high post, the high mid post, the low mid post, the low post as well. He just looked phenomenal. Amazing touch around the rim. And listen, Joel Embiid is, you can argue, the best player in the league, the second best player in the league, depending on where you have Giannis or Jokic at, where you have Steph Curry at as well. But listen, Joel Embiid could very well be the front runner for MVP so far this year. And If not Anthony Edwards, then Joel Embiid should be your MVP pick right now. And that was the case even before he's this performance right here. And the thing that makes this most impressive, is based on the talent that he has around him in Philadelphia. Listen, there's a lot of talent in Philadelphia. Tyrese Maxey will be an all-star this year. Tobias Harris has had a resurgence in his career since James Harden has left. Obviously PJ Tucker is still there as well. And like I said, so the talent that Philadelphia has is what makes this performance by Joel Embiid all the more impressive. For him to play at the level of play that he's been at, for him to have Philadelphia where they're at in the standings, all of this without James Harden and with first-year head coach Nick Nurse in Philadelphia, that's what makes this more impressive for me. That's what makes Joel Embiid for me the front runner for MVP. And then I have Anthony Edwards number 2, a close number 2 though. I'll say that. And is this the most impressive, the most dominant performance put on by a big since Wilt Chamberlain? Probably not since Wilt, but I would say since, in terms of just dominance, not who I think is the best big, but the most dominant single game performance put on by a big. This is probably the best one since Shaq in his MVP season. Joel Embiid has become the quintessential big. This is what every coach, every GM wants their big to look like now. And what Joel Embiid does well is that he's so physical in the low post. He no longer, because there was a stretch in his career where he was relying too much on the 3-pointer and not getting the low post enough. But listen, he only shoots the 3-pointer when he's open. He's not hunting for a 3-point shot. He's looking to bang bodies out in the low post. He's looking to create contact. He's looking to get physical, and he's looking to get to the free throw line. And with his size and with his touch and his amazing footwork around the rim, and now him being healthy completely, man, it's phenomenal. It's beautiful to see. And the way Joel Embiid plays, he reminds me more of Hakeem Olajuwon, who is also a top 10 player of all time, I might add. And you can argue the second greatest center of all time. Perhaps the second greatest center of all time, behind Kareem, in my opinion. But Joel Embiid has put on an amazing performance, and he is my front runner for MVP right now. And he's without doubt the best player in the NBA, and he's only going to continue to get better. And like I said earlier in this segment, the most impressive stat line from his performance was his free throw line percentage. Listen, 21 and 23 from the free throw line is phenomenal, let alone as a big. It is by far the most impressive stat. And you look at that stat, and then it just makes you think and wonder, wow, how many points did Shaq leave on the line? My goodness. I mean, imagine if Shaq should shot at least 70% from the free throw line. We're talking about him being the all-time leader in points in the NBA, if that's the case. But that's neither here nor there. We're here now, and we focus on what's going on right now. And what's going on right now is that Joel Embiid is by far the best player in the NBA, and Joel Embiid just put on the best performance by a big in nearly 20 years. But let me know what you guys think about that. Share your thoughts in the chat room. Share your thoughts in the comment section. I would love to hear all about it, guys. In our next segment, we are going to be discussing the highly touted matchup in women's college basketball between South Carolina and LSU. Perhaps the most important game of the season so far, women's college basketball, coming on tonight. We're going to discuss it and give our preview, give our predictions for it, guys. So be sure to stick around. You're not going to miss it. We'll be right back. All right, welcome back to the final segment of our show. In case you missed the first two segments, we just discussed the news coming out of Milwaukee with them firing Adrian Griffin and bringing on Doc Rivers to replace him as head coach. And in the second segment, we broke down the historic performance put on by Joel Embiid, which scored 70 points, breaking the Philadelphia 76ers scoring record, single game scoring record. And in this segment, guys, we are going to preview perhaps the biggest game of the season so far, women's college basketball, between South Carolina and LSU. South Carolina being the only undefeated team left in women's college basketball, and LSU obviously being reigning national champions. Their only loss this season coming to number 3rd ranked Colorado. So, very important matchup right here. The reason I didn't leave this segment too much time, though, is because I don't. What this game is going to show the general audience is how good South Carolina is and how much they improved from last year. Listen, I've watched every single game that South Carolina's played so far this year, and I watch women's college basketball pretty much every day, and so I know pretty much everything that's going on throughout the Power 5 conferences. I've yet to see a team that can contend with South Carolina through film. And listen, South Carolina is by far the best team in college basketball right now. I don't think it's particularly close. Two players in the starting five are probably going to finish 1 and 2 in voting for SEC Player of the Year, and that's point guard Tina Paopao and low post player Camila Cardozo. They also have Raven Johnson, who is a top 10 player in women's college basketball right now. Bree Hall, who's one of the best defenders in women's college basketball right now. Chloe Kitts, who is playing tremendously as a big, who's as only a sophomore. And then, coming off the bench, you have Sanaya Fagan, Ashley Watkins, Malaysia Fawali. You just have so much talent. Tessa Johnson, one of the best freshmen from her class as well. And there's a plethora of talent in South Carolina. But one thing that they improved upon from last year is their ability to shoot a 3-ball. Listen, they're the best 3-point shooting team in women's college basketball. And they also have the best low post presence in women's college basketball. Not to mention that they have all the defensive grit intensity that they had last year. So they fixed the biggest flaw they had last year, and that was their perimeter shooting. And LSU has had points this year where they've struggled, where they've looked out of sorts, where they've had internal strife in the locker room. But they are starting to get into a rhythm. I think they're starting to find their groove. Over the past, 2 or 3 games, Haley Van Lith is starting to become more comfortable playing that primary point guard position as opposed to playing the off-ball, being the scoring option. I think she's doing a good job transitioning to more of a facilitator role these past 3 games. Angelreese is starting to get back to her rhythm. She's starting to finally get into game shape after missing a couple games. Kayla Williams is playing phenomenal as well. Flo J. Johnson is playing phenomenal as well. And listen, LSU is good. LSU is the second best team in the SEC, no doubt about it. But it's really not about what LSU is doing. It's just about how great South Carolina is and how they look. And I'm excited to watch this game. I don't think this game is going to be particularly close, quite frankly. I can see it being a 10 to 12 point game just because of the rivalry factor between the two teams. But realistically, man, I mean, South Carolina is 25 points better than LSU, and I don't think it's particularly close, man. But like I said, I have LSU I'm sorry, I have South Carolina just as the best team, bar none, not even close in women's college basketball. And I won't be surprised if they run the table this year en route to a national championship, but can't put the cart before the horse. But I'm excited to see this game because this will be the best team that South Carolina has played all year. And it will be a good test to see exactly where they're at. Like, have they... Because you can't say with South Carolina that they've been beating up on bad teams. I mean, listen, look at their out-of-conference schedule. They played Duke and North Carolina and Maryland and Notre Dame. So these are teams that... These are Power 5 conference teams. And we saw what Duke just did to Virginia Tech. You saw what Notre Dame just did to Wake Forest. We saw what North Carolina just did to Louisville. Listen, so these are South Carolina's schedule has been impressive, perhaps one of the toughest schedules so far this year outside of Virginia Tech. So I'll be excited to see this game. Like I said, I do think South Carolina is going to win this game by about 10 to 12 points. But realistically, I think that South Carolina is about 20, 25 points better than LSU. And not just LSU, but quite frankly, every other team in women's college basketball. I just don't think it's particularly close, man. South Carolina is by far the best team in women's college basketball. But LSU will be the best team that South Carolina faces in the regular season, especially in conference play, and even in the conference tournament before they get in. This will be the best team that South Carolina faces up until the Elite Eight. And this will be a good test for South Carolina. This would be something they need so they don't get too complacent moving forward over the course of the season. And it'll be a good barometer to gauge what they need to improve on and how good they can be moving forward. But let me know what you guys think. Share your thoughts in the comment section. Share your thoughts in the chat room. Looking forward to hearing all about it. But with that being said, guys, that's it for our show for today. Thank you so much for tuning in. It's been a wonderful show. If you haven't already, be sure to hit that like button, hit the subscribe button as well so you guys stay updated on all of our latest content. And if you be sure to follow us on Patreon as well. You can do so by going to patreon.com, clicking on the search bar and typing in Sorry to Bother You Show. That way you gain access to all of our exclusive content that we post daily. And if you'd like to support our network and our company, you can do so by following the link in the ticker below. It's streamelements.com/sorrytobotheryoushow/tip. We back again same time again tomorrow, guys, at 11:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Until then, guys, continue to stay safe, be vigilant, make smart decisions, and peace.